I think a comic can have great characters, cool art, interesting world building, maybe even a different concept. But if the story doesn't make you feel something emotionally, the audience might not connect with it. Hi, I'm Chris. Welcome to Panels in Progress, a channel about making comics and manga and learning through the process. And today's episode is all about story and the importance of story. I'm not going to give hard tips on what you should and shouldn't do, but I'm going to provide some ideas that might inspire you to use story to your advantage as well as put yourself in the story. I'll get to what I mean to that later in the video. So if you got a sketchbook or a comic that you're working on, go ahead and start working on it and we'll jump into this conversation. But before we do, let me know in the comment section below, how important is story to you and what you do? Are you the writer, creator of the story, or are you just the artist? How do you feel one way or the other when you read an amazing story? Let me know. I'll be reading those comments later. Alright, so let's start with a thing that I think we all do, which is we start with a really cool idea, a really interesting or different concept of a story idea. You know, it's the what if scenario, it's the parallel universe, a different world, or a different look at, and from the surface, it sounds really cool. We dig right into drawing these cool characters and thinking about what they should look like, what they should have on their body, what type of weapons they might have. We might even start working on the world building, where we are compiling a world that is different, unique, new, something that we want to see, something that we love. And once you have all that, you still have to ask yourself, what is the story even about? I mean, how many times have we put characters and world building, design, and art even before the story? I know that I've done it plenty of times, and I'm pretty sure other people still do it to this day. We are artists at our core, so of course we're excited to create the thing that we see in our mind. But that story is equally important, if not more important, than the art itself. I know that's a hot take. I had a discussion about that in a previous podcast where there was some great debate about whether bad art could carry a good story versus could an amazing story carry bad art. There's still some debate, so if you've got your opinion on it, let me know. So I really want to talk about the emotional center of a story, how a story should make you feel something. Now, this isn't all about serious comics. There are fun comics, there are funny comics, horror comics, action comics, romance comics. But at the core of it all, whatever genre you pick, whatever story you're trying to tell, you should feel something. You should make the reader want to feel something. Have you ever read a comic or a manga that didn't make you feel something? Usually those ones don't stick around, or we don't keep reading them. Every comic that I read, every manga that I read, I feel something in one way or another. If it's a good horror manga or comic, I am feeling the tension, I'm feeling the suspense, I want to know more, I want to know what the heck is even happening. I was recently reading What's the Furthest Place from Here, which the beginning of that comic is like the perfect inciting incident. How it starts off, you have no idea what's going on, but you know that something is not right. Something is wrong. Really interesting comic. Check it out if you've got the time. But going on to different manga, when I read Witch Hat Atelier, I am rooting for Coco to figure it all out. I'm rooting for her to save her mother. I'm rooting for her to become a witch and learn how magic works. I want her to win. I recently read the first couple volumes of Hunter x Hunter, and with Gon, I wanted him to succeed. I wanted him to pass the hunter's examination. I was along for the ride. And I feel like when you are telling a story, a good story, that's exactly what you want your reader to feel. You want them to want to follow the journey. You want them to feel whatever you feel, whatever the characters are feeling in some way, shape, or form, or at least relate to them. Because if you can't make your reader connect with the story, the characters, what is happening, they're not going to stick around. They're not going to keep reading. They have to have that interest. So you have to ask yourself, what is it about my story that could be or should be interesting to my reader? And maybe that question is what leads us from having a cool idea to an actual story. You see, a cool idea is just the spark of a story. It's just the start. It's what gets your mind going. What gets your mind creating a pathway to that idea. Like, it's what starts it all. You have to start with a cool idea. But the story gives that idea meaning. Like, we can come up with a cool plot, but the story is why that plot even matters. A simple plot idea could be a boy gets lost in the woods. But the story underneath that is, what does it all mean? Could it mean something deeper? Could it be that the reason he gets lost in the woods is because he has to find himself? He's lost. He ran away from his family because they don't trust him to be responsible. And so him getting lost is just the plot. However, him finding himself and him learning how to be responsible, that could be the deeper story underneath it. Like, there's multiple layers that you can add to your story. And that's like maybe a more serious tone, but you can do the same thing with comedy or romance or any other genre. You can go levels beyond just the plot. What you don't want is characters acting and doing things without sound or reason. There's nothing further than the fact that the plot needs this to happen. Have you ever seen those television shows where you can't understand why a character would do a certain thing, but because the plot needs it to happen, the plot needs them to go? I think the one popular example that a lot of people use is The Last Jedi, where it was the casino scene. It's like, why are we doing this? What is the purpose of this to the greater story? Now, I'm in the rare side that I actually liked parts of The Last Jedi, the cinematography, the good versus, like, the different perspectives of good versus bad or evil or whatever. Like, I liked that there was gray area, because I think things do need to be more complex. And I know that that is a hot take, but regardless of the fact, having your characters do things just for plot purposes, it's not going to allow the reader to connect with that character or with the story itself, because we need that fundamental why. That fundamental why is what's going to keep a reader engaged, and it's also going to keep us engaged while we make the comic. I don't have to tell you guys, it takes time to make a comic. Even if you're the fastest artist around, it's still going to take time. Even the professional artists that are whipping out a couple pages a week, it's still, they're putting in like 6-8 hour days working on a full page or a 2-page spread, like whatever it is. It takes time. And if you're making a long story, it's going to take even more time. If you're a part-time artist or a part-time comic creator or an after hours, after work comic creator like I am, like, a short comic can take anywhere between 2 to 4 to 6 to a year, 6 months to a year. It could take as long as it needs to take, because you might not have that time. And if your story is something that's throwaway, it might not keep you coming back to it. I know that for me, every time I tell a story, every time I sit down to make a comic, it's the why I want to tell the story that keeps me coming back. If I wasn't as engaged with the stories I was telling, I wouldn't come back. I wouldn't finish them. So that connection is pivotal. You're going to be spending a lot of time with these characters, with this world, with this scene, with this story. And if the story really matters to you, you will keep coming back. If it's something that you have to say or something you want to share or show or experience with other people, having a meaningful story in whatever way, like I said, it doesn't have to be a serious, deep, thought-provoking story. It could be just something funny or something cute, something that will make someone's day brighter, or just you sharing an experience of your own through your characters could cause you to keep coming back, to keep working on it, to finish it. Because ultimately that's what's important, is that you have to be engaged enough with the story and what's happening and your want to tell the story to keep coming back, to finish it. Because not every part of the comic making process you're going to enjoy. Like, I've made several comics and I don't enjoy every single part of it. I have my favorite parts where if I could live in those parts of the comic making process, that's where I would be. But I know that in order to finish the comic, I have to do other things. So I love like the thumbnailing part. I love constructing the pages and figuring out the layouts. I actually like working on the story and making sure that the story flows. I like bringing the pencils together. But I guess the parts that I don't enjoy as much is the inking and the coloring portion. But that's because I don't feel confident in my abilities when I do those portions. I still give it my best effort, but those parts, if it wasn't for me loving the story or wanting to tell the story, I might quit after the penciling part. Now, I have seen that some new artists, or at least ones that are sharing their journey, that they just go straight from the pencils where they darken it, and they make the pencils, they do all the hard work in their pencils and make those their inks. And actually that's, if I had a less sketchy penciling style, I think that would work for me too. But still, me wanting to tell the story, that's what keeps me going. And that's what's going to keep you going, especially through the hard parts. The parts that you struggle with, if you don't care about that story, or the story doesn't matter, or there's no point to it, then you might quit. So save yourself the headache and give meaning to your story. And that meaning can come in many different ways. You can put yourself into the story. And I don't mean you can physically put yourself into the story, drawing yourself as a character or making yourself the main character. Unless you have a slice of life comic, that's perfectly fine too. But there's different ways that you can share yourself, your meaning into the story. We all have life experiences. We all have moments that are personal to us, things that we've gone through, things that are unanimous amongst the masses, and there's things that are very specific to maybe a culture or belief or whatever. You can add those moments to enrich your story. So I read different types of comics and manga and graphic novels, and I think about Smile, which is by Raina Telgemeier, and her story, this one is like her story of when she had to get braces. She lost a tooth and she had to get braces, and that was a very personal story, her sharing the story of her in this awkward stage of being a preteen teenager, having a missing tooth that she needed to get fixed, and her experience growing up with this issue. And though that example is very literal, it's still the experience of we've all grown up through an awkward stage, and we have had moments in our life that we could share to enrich the story. Like if you have a teenage character who's in school, most of us have gone to school, and how awkward that can be. You can add your own experiences to your character that's in school to bring that character more to life. You can add your own experiences to your character so that it's not so generic. Let's say you know how to drive a car, and maybe it's your first car accident. You can use like how you felt after the car accident, knowing that you were going to get in trouble with your parents because let's say you weren't paying attention, you were distracted. Like, you can use those personal stories within the story. No one is going to know that this event happened to you specifically because they're reading your character. They're reading your character's story. And if it helps enhance the world of your character, then you can do that. There's certain types of stories, certain types of emotions and events that happen to everyone at some point in their life. The fear of failure, the feeling trapped, wanting to be seen. There's guilt, there's shame, there's jealousy, there's loneliness. There's so many things that if it applies to your story, draw that stuff from your life and put it into the story. I know I don't have the complete story of Daniel Warren Johnson's stories. I don't have all the context, I should say. But I know that his comics that he makes are very personal to him in some way, shape, or form. Like this last one, The Moon is Following Us. He's a father. He drew a lot of inspiration from that. I know that the Extremity came from the idea of what if, he's an artist, what if he lost his hand, what would that mean, what would he do? And he took that idea and how he would personally feel about that situation, but he changed it into this dystopic fantasy story. You can do that too. Like, you don't have to take, like, our lives can seem very mundane. Sometimes we can feel like we have the most boring life that ever existed because we scroll social media and we see other people living their life and we're like, man, my life is nothing like that. Everyone seems to have everything going on. But actually, when it comes to our story and the stories we want to tell, those mundane things actually are a part of everyone's life in different ways, shapes, or form. Like, everyone has to do these certain things. Everyone feels these certain emotions, some to the extreme, some lesser. But at some point in time, these things are going to happen. These things are going to come up. And you can enrich your story by adding these real human moments to your characters, whether your characters are human or not, because those feelings are universal. But it's actually how you see the world, your perspective on the world, that makes your story unique. We can all have gone to college, but like my personal experience going to college is going to be slightly different from everyone else's story about going to college. And what's interesting, it's like our perspective or our personal experience is unique to us. But when you actually draw upon those real life experiences and put them into your work, it actually makes it even more relatable. And I'm pretty sure in one of the Daniel Warren Johnson interviews, he said that he was surprised that the more personal his stories got, even though he thought no one would be able to relate to any of it. I can't remember which story he was talking about, but he said that the more personal he got, the more relatable the stories became, and like people who he wouldn't even think would connect with the story actually did connect with the story and felt something. And so I think there's something to be said there, that us adding in our personal experiences, that like I said, as long as they go with your story, as long as they make sense, it definitely brings your characters more to life. It makes them more realistic. And perhaps one good idea would be to think about your favorite characters. Think about your favorite character, and let's expand it past just comics and manga, graphic novels. Expand it to books, expand it to movies and television shows. Think about your favorite character, and what is it about that character that stands out to you? What is it about that character that you relate with so much? What is it about that character that it makes them feel alive to you? If you got a character, let me know in the comment section below. I'm really curious to see what characters you guys are going to pick. I'm trying to actually think about what character I would pick right now, because man, I read so many stories. There's so many characters. I think right now, like Coco from Witch Hat Atelier is probably my favorite character, in the fact that, and actually like this character archetype is a character that I can identify with in multiple stories, where this character has a belief. They want to be like, she wants to be a witch specifically, and she didn't think it was possible because her mom told her, like, you can't be a witch, you have to be born a witch. And not to get on a side story about Witch Hat Atelier specifically, but the idea of art being a talent, and that you're either born talented or you're not. And that theme of the manga, and the fact that the character finds out that, oh, you don't have to be born a witch, you can actually practice and become a witch, ties back to the story of you can draw and practice and work on your craft, and you can become a great artist. Like, I think all of it is so relative, and I love that story and I love that character, and it's super exciting because as I am rooting for her to reach her dream, I'm also working my ass off to reach my dream, which is becoming a better artist and a better storyteller. So before we close out this conversation, let me leave you guys with some questions you should ask yourself while you are writing your story, so that way we can write better stories and more meaningful stories. First question, what is the story really about? What does my main character want? What is my main character avoiding? What changes about the character at the end? What do I want the reader to feel by the last page? Why am I drawn to this idea? What part of myself is hiding inside this story? Now, those are, I think, a great starting point, and based upon your answers to these questions, it might either empower you to go deeper into your story, or it might make you decide that, maybe this is just a cool idea. Either way, take the time, write out those answers, and figure out what it is about that story that keeps you motivated. I'm going to add some links in the description section about some great books that I think would work for helping you develop the story you want to tell. I'm currently reading The Anatomy of Story by John Truby, and he's got me thinking really hard about the stories I want to tell and how I can make my story better. There are so many awesome YouTube channels that I follow just for writing. Just as a little asterisk here, writing for comics is different. I follow a lot of YouTubers that give advice for writing for novels, writing short stories, writing for television, writing movies, things like that. But writing for comics, there isn't a lot of people talking about it, and I would love to dive deeper into just the idea of how to write a comic. But some of the channels that I follow for story writing, Brandon Sanderson has an excellent online class of everything to do with writing fantasy. Definitely check out his series. I like Brian McNulty's, the way he does like top 10. He uses movie examples, but in the context of writing a story. I also like Abby's channel, where she has a very scientific approach to story, and I'm pretty sure there's countless others that I'm forgetting because I follow so many, but I'll make sure to add them to the description section so you guys can check out their channels and try to expand your horizon when it comes to writing. So hopefully I encouraged you guys to go a little bit deeper on the meaning of your story and get to the center of what you want your reader to feel. Let me know in the comment section below, are you guys struggling with your story, or are you struggling more with your art? Are you guys interested in more story videos? I'd love to go even deeper on the topic. So just let me know in the comment section below. Links to my comics that I'm working on, all also in the description. And until next time, let's make some progress.